a sign of resilience hung from a tree in a fire-destroyed neighborhood in Santa Rosa. Josh Edelson, Agence France-Presse, Getty Images. Good morning. Want to get California today by email? Here's the sign-up. With a vacancy rate of around 1%, Santa Rosa was a tough place to find a home before its recent disaster. Then the Tubbs fire wiped out about 5% of city's housing stock, roughly 3,000 homes. For some of the displaced, the question is now, do you stay? Chris Corsi, Santa Rosa's mayor, said the common reaction of fire victims has been a determination to rebuild. Even so, he added, I would be naive to say nobody is going to leave because of this. Many homeowners who held insurance policies will be able to erect new houses on their ash-laden properties. But the wine country's zigzagging infernos didn't discriminate between rich and poor. Low-income people who are displaced now face a housing market where the median monthly rent hovers around $2,500, double the national average. The median home price is more than $600,000. Those figures are expected to rise. Scarce inventory in Santa Rosa, with a population of about 175,000 people, had already been helping to drive yearly increases of home prices in the 10% range, said Ruben Gonzalez, an economist with Keller Williams. So this further reduction in supply is just likely to exacerbate that trend, he said. Jenny Lynn Holmes, director of shelter and housing at Catholic Charities Santa Rosa office, said she was bracing for a growing wave people have forced into destitution by the housing skis. My biggest fear, she said, is that we will lose the amazing community that we have because people can't afford to live here. Santa Rosa's leaders have been huddling over potential emergency measures aimed at creating more temporary dwellings. Among the ideas are relaxed rules for granny units and an ordinance that lets people to live in RVs at the sites of their destroyed homes. They are also looking to target landlords. California law already makes it illegal to raise rents by more than 10% after a disaster. Mr. Corsi, the mayor, said Santa Rosa officials would discuss making the rule even more stringent. It's a tricky proposition, he acknowledged. There is a market rate and the market has obviously changed, Mr. Corsi said. But if I was king, and I'm not, I wouldn't raise anybody's rent right now. California Online. Please note we regularly highlight articles on news sites that have limited access for non-subscribers. 4 Democratic candidates for governor faced off during a forum in San Francisco. Their starkest disagreement was over whether California could afford a single-payer health system. San Francisco Chronicle. The Trumpification of the California Republican Party is well underway. Cal Matters. California's top judge endorsed a plan to eliminate the state's cash bail system. Instead, defendants who pose a risk would be held and others would be released pending the outcome of their cases. The Associated Press. Yosemite's Half Dome lit up at sunset. Preston Ganaway for the New York Times. The Trump administration is proposing a steep increase in national park fees. Vehicles would have to pay $70 to enter Yosemite and other parks. The Mercury News. The San Francisco Stockton Regional Airport. Stockton wants to rebrand its airport to emphasize its proximity to San Francisco, about 80 miles away. San Francisco Chronicle. It breaks my heart. A gay 16-year-old in Fresno was pelted with juice boxes and taunted with anti-gay slurs. Fresno. Oprah Winfrey visited Pelican Bay State Prison in Northern California for a report on its use of solitary confinement. Some inmates are kept for 22 hours a day in a windowless cell the size of a small parking space. 60 Minutes. The Astros offense was shackled by the Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw. Sean M. Getty Images. The Dodgers clinched Game 1 of the World Series as pitching ace Clayton Kershaw shut down the Astros with 11 strikeouts in 7 innings. The New York Times. It's been a while, but Los Angeles is again a Dodgers town. The New York Times. Robert Guillaume died at his home in Los Angeles. He was 89. Mr. Guillaume won an Emmy for his role as a butler on Soap and another for the spin-off Benson. The New York Times. The cousins Griffin Dunn and Annabelle Dunn have made a documentary about their aunt, Joan Didion. Nathan Bahar for the New York Times. Joan Didion turned down several requests to make a documentary about her life. Then her nephew Griffin Dunn and grandniece Annabelle Dunn asked The New York Times, "You should know that I am well and living less than 2 miles from LACMA. A cryptic letter sent to a curator claims that an 18th-century masterpiece, lost for more than 100 years, is hiding somewhere in Los Angeles. Los Angeles Times. With new clubs, restaurants and hotels, Palm Springs is once again the capital of cool. Los Angeles Times. And finally, Jonathan Gold in the documentary City of Gold, which gives an affectionate portrait of the Los Angeles food critic. Guru Toshima Sundance selects. Jonathan Gold, the celebrated chronicler of Los Angeles food culture, has released his yearly ranking of the area's best 101 restaurants. For this edition, a newcomer edged its way into the top spot. Vespertine opened in Culver City in July with a pledge to disrupt the course of the modern restaurant. Mr. Gold acknowledged that the restaurant's throbbing music, abstract food and princely cost might be off-putting for some diners. But according to Mr. Gold, Vespertine is in its way perfect. The restaurant also caught the attention of Pete Wells, the New York Times food critic. Vespertine, he wrote this week, gets inside your head. Check out Mr. Gold's The Full Ranking. You need a subscription to access it, or you can see just his top 10 for free here. Mr. Gold fielded a few questions via email. How many restaurants do you visit a year? Is it exhausting? A. I eat out about 10-12 times a week. There's obviously overlap. I tend to visit restaurants I'm reviewing 45 times, but I'd guess it ends up being about 300 each year. I've never complained about my job, and I'm not about to hear. A pair of food writers suggested that you wanted to reward Vespertine's ambition. Any truth in that? Vespertine is perfect in what it is trying to do, a seamless integration between architecture, flavor and sound. In my review, I called it a Gesamtkunstwerk, a term associated with Richard Wagner that means more or less total work of art. Is Vespertine's chef Jordan Kahn perhaps more concerned with unsettling his customers than delighting them? Perhaps. But I think both his ambition and his execution deserve to be rewarded. How would you rank LA's food culture against the world right now? I still maintain that Los Angeles is the best place to eat in the world, for its splendid produce, for its informality, and for its unimaginable diversity. This interview was condensed and edited. California Today goes live at 6 a.m. Pacific Time weekdays. Tell us what you want to see today at nytimes.com. The California Today columnist, Mike McFate, is a third-generation Californian, born outside Sacramento and raised in San Juan Capistrano. He lives in Los Osos. Follow him on Twitter. California Today is edited by Julie Bloom, who grew up in Los Angeles and graduated from UC Berkeley.